Hi, everyone. Welcome back. This week, we're going to have an amazing conversation with Fred. Fred, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thank you, Tony. I'm excited to be here.
Absolutely. I'm excited to have you on as well. If you could just kick this off with a one-word open, tell the audience, what's that one word that's on top of mind for you in this moment that you can share with us so we could be on the same page with you?
I think I gave it away. Excited.
Nice. Very cool. And if you could take the next 3 to 5 minutes, Fred, tell us about your business. Tell us about your background, who you are, what you stand for, what your company does, who you help.
Okay, so I've been a serial entrepreneur for the last 25 years. Started 3 companies in that time. The one before the current one that I'll be talking to you about was in web conferencing. So that turned to actually be a pretty big segment with Zoom coming on strong. But even back 15 years ago, it was a pretty big deal, being able to do things virtually, but even more so now. My education is actually as a computer science graduate way back when, software and such was and computer programming was called data processing and such, evolved into obviously what it is today. What we do today is around business to business intent data. And I guess you could call it, a lot of people would call it lead generation. So for many, many years, having been in business to business for a long time, I've always looked at why marketing and especially advertising doesn't work all that well for business to business. And the real reason is it has very long sales cycles, and it's not predicated on a deal or a transaction. It's really predicated by the actual account, right? So in business, you go after certain accounts that have good product market fit for what you do. So we came up with a way to solve that. And that's why I'm excited is, COVID kind of got in the way, but in that period of time, we still added customers and partners, but we really understood where we fit and kind of how the current ecosystem looks for a new innovative product like this. Nothing new for me, believe it or not. 20 years ago, web conferencing was an unknown concept to many people. People never really thought it would work, right? So that's kind of my background.
That's awesome. I can't wait to dive into it more to find out, get deeper on what you do and everything as well. So let's shift over to wins. If you could share with the audience a recent win that you had in your business that's near and dear to your heart, and tell us your takeaway from it too.
Well, I'm kind of cautious about revealing names, but we've had a couple of 3 wins actually in December alone that have been really interesting for us. So we work with publishers, right? We use their content to generate the kind of results for advertisers that we've always wanted to do. That's really the basis of our software. And where we, in the first part of this year, we spent a lot of time reaching out to them and going to, well, we didn't go to very many conferences, but we went to a couple and just introducing ourselves. Now we're getting enough traction that people are actually coming to us. And I mean on the publisher side, on the partner side, where I'd have to say they were kind of cautious in the last little while, also because of COVID and such, but also because what we do is a very much a digital transformation for them. So very excited about them actually coming to us. Got a partner who came forward, potential one, just about 10 days ago. Can't wait to meet after the new year. I'm really looking forward to that because it's, in the end, it's not about dollars per se. It's about validation. It's about seeing something that you're passionate about and really believe needs to be solved, actually starting to come to fruition. And I think a lot of business to business entrepreneurs out there, well, business people too, business leaders really, would agree on is advertising is never seemed to really work all that well unless it's for the very large companies who sponsor golf tournaments, you know, other events on television to just get air cover, right? To just get branding. But, you know, many a time I'd heard from business leaders, sales leaders, marketing leaders, you know, I ran this campaign, or it cost me 6 figures, and I don't really feel like it generated it much for us, so I stopped doing it. Well, the fact is, actually, it did work. They just don't know it because, you know, people aren't ready to call them up as soon as they see your product or service, right? Because of the long sales cycles. They're still in a research mode. They're even just in a concept mode. So they don't know that there is actually impact when there really is. And I love being able to show our advertisers, which are the end users of this, the results of that.
That's really powerful, because so right, a lot of entrepreneurs, they run a campaign, they think to get no results, there's no ROI. But if you think of a long-term or other business that came in, if they're properly tracked, you know, usually finds one. So let's shift over to failures. So if you know, people don't want to talk about failures, but we all know it's part of life as long as you could learn from it and move forward, right? So if you have something that you recently experienced that you would consider failure, you know, tell the audience what that looked like and how you got through it. That would be great.
Well, I'd say the one that really comes to mind is not getting good product market fit. So because we're based in Alberta, Canada, where there's a lot of industrial companies, energy and now environment type companies, we thought to get faster traction revenue to help fund our efforts, we'd go after more of a local market, right? I say local, I don't mean just within the city. Obviously, our stuff works for any business-to-business operation that has a long sales cycle. But we went after industrial companies. We even branded ourselves around that. And it worked pretty well. I mean, there aren't too many business-to-business software companies that do intent data and lead generation that go after industrial companies. And we kind of knew going in there was a risk to it, but it turned out to be a pretty large risk because the market wasn't there. Industrial companies really don't believe that strongly in marketing, partly because of what I mentioned earlier, the fact that the long sales cycles, they just don't feel they get ROI from advertising, from, you know, even doing events, although that would probably be the closest thing to what they thought really worked. But certainly emailing, outbound reach outs, all the usual kind of marketing things didn't seem to work for them, especially on the digital side. And that, you know, I consider a bit of a failure. And then combined with the fact that we were so tied in with that same local market after a while, word of mouth is very strong. You know, you penetrate a certain area like ours, and we actually did fairly well with it because people would just refer us. I mean, how many companies specialize in it, right? So what there was, we got a lot of it. We got a lot of it outside of local too, but certainly the most was from local. And something we call here the energy crisis came along, where the market was flooded with oil and gas from the from the overseas type companies, right? And all of a sudden, oil went to less than the cost it would take to actually get it out of the ground, and that hurt a lot of companies locally. We had a recession pretty much for 2-3 years, really bad one. You'd even say it was maybe before then, that because they're very large industries in our area, that hurt us, because a lot of these guys, between that and COVID, they were wondering if they were going to survive. But again, that gave us the couple years here to rejig, rebrand away from industrial, and then focus more on our relationships with publishers and advertisers. If you can see the shift here, my advice is, advertisers, well, they're harder to find in a sense, right? Because not only a certain percentage of B2B companies actually advertise, but they advertise because they actually have budgets for that. And that was, again, like a failure of ours, is going after companies that didn't really have much for budget around that, not just for advertising, but in terms of marketing in general.
Yeah, thanks for sharing that with us. I couldn't help not to think about a few times in the past where I've worked with CEOs, and they were sharing with me how this marketing thing, it's not working, or they're running, it's not working. But then coincidentally, they're having their biggest month ever. And I'm like, well, what about this? This might be a direct correlation to this. But it's funny that you need that data to show you that, hey, working. That's why you're having the biggest month ever. So I felt that personal.
Yeah, that's very true.
Let's talk about thought leadership. So I would love to hear from you as a thought leader. What's your take on what makes somebody a great thought leader? If there was like top 3 things that, if someone's trying to position themselves or become a stronger thought leader, what are 3 things that person could do to become a thought leader?
I think one of the first things is to be on podcasts like this. So thank you very much, Tony. Be visible, social media. I can't really say that we've done a good job, or I've done a good job around there. My thought leadership is more around, I guess, product and what we provide. And I guess to a degree, hoping people will see, our posts. We primarily post on LinkedIn, a lot around best practices, but a bit around our wins and our products and new releases and such. But when you first mentioned that, Tony, I thought to myself, thought leadership is tough. It's a little bit like, not to compare myself to Elon Musk, but something pretty obvious, but that a lot of people aren't picking up on. There's a lot of naysayers out there. So to be a good thought leader, you have to have a lot of persistence. You have to really believe you're solving a problem, right?
Yeah, and just to stack on what you said, right or wrong answer, and what you said is very true. You have to be persistent. You have to work on the product. You have to be out there, putting yourself out here, sharing your wisdom, helping people. And to stack on what you said, I think thought leadership is, we've all heard from the E-Myth, right? The book that Michael Gerber wrote, the E-Myth, work on your business instead of in your business. So I have a slight variation to that when it comes to thought leadership. My point of view, I have many points of view on thought leadership like you, but one of them, mine, based on this conversation, is a thought leader is someone that's working on the industry instead of in it. So if you're bigger than yourself and you help others in your industry, that's one component as well, just to stack on what you said. So I love that. Let's talk about culture. You got great company culture and it's humming and you're successful. If someone else is listening to this and they're striving for creating an awesome culture, what's your top 2 things you could say, hey, I would do this, or this is my experience that got my company culture, this much better, so to speak. So if you could share that with us, that'd be great.
Okay, well, my personal experience, and many of you have already heard this, is let people run with what they want to run with. You have to enable them. If they feel like it's their company, their idea, their product, you get a lot out of them. They may not have the risk tolerance that the business leader has, but from a product basis, from a services basis, if that's what your business is, they know a lot, and they learn from the business leader on how to best utilize that, but they're also closest to the customer, to the partner, so they know what they actually want. But many times they're afraid to let that be known. If it seems like a weak idea, and some of them aren't always strong, but it's the classic point that many of you have heard. It's better to fail and learn from it than not try at all.
Spoken like a true thought leader. So I really appreciate that. And a lot of times, to your point, employees want to say the right thing to upper leadership, where, to your point, they should just say it how it is, because they're directly dealing with the customer, generally speaking. So if they could bring forth what's really the truth and speak to the truth with upper leadership, then the company can grow, right? And that helps a lot. So here we are. The audience has had a chance to learn a little bit about Fred, a little bit about what you do. I want you to take this opportunity to give out your website address if they want to find out more information about you or your company, social handles, whatever you're comfortable sharing with my audience, that would out or connect with you and follow up with your stuff. Okay,
well, we can be found on the web at ActiveConversion.com. So that's not Active Conversation, but ActiveConversion. My email there is fyee@activeconversion.com, and I have a handle on Twitter at Fred Yee. You can find me on LinkedIn, of course, I think, and message me, ask to connect, that sort of thing.
Wonderful. And here we are at the end. If we could close it up with a one-word close, what would that be for you? And tell the audience why you're choosing to sign off with this word.
Well, I think it has to be more than one word. Sorry, Tony, but back to business 2022.
Perfect. Well, Fred, thank you so much for coming on to the show. It's been a pleasure having you, and looking forward to catching up with you in the future to see what you're up to.
Thank you very much, Tony, and have a great new year, and to your listeners as well.